Have you ever stopped and wondered who's really in the driver's seat of your life? I mean, really. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the unseen architects of your daily decisions, all those hidden forces that are shaping the thousands of choices you make every single day.
So let's just get right to the heart of it with a big question. When you think you're making a free choice, how much of that decision is truly 100% your own? It's a bit of a provocative question, I know, but it's exactly what we're here to unpack.
And to make this real, let's just look at something we all go through. A typical morning. Just think about it. The coffee you decided to buy, the route your GPS told you to take, the articles that just happen to pop up in your newsfeed. Each one probably felt like a simple, separate choice you made, right? Well, as we're about to find out, there's a whole lot more going on just beneath the surface.
Okay, let's dive into our first major force. I like to call this one the invisible suggestion. This is all about how your environment is quietly, almost invisibly, setting the stage for the decisions you're about to make.
Now, the scientific term for this whole thing is the priming effect. It sounds complicated, but it's actually a pretty simple idea with a huge impact. Basically, something you see, hear, or read can subconsciously influence your very next action, even when the two things seem totally and completely disconnected.
And you know what? These cues are absolutely everywhere. It's the fast, upbeat music in a store that makes you shop just a little bit faster. Or it's a news headline that uses a word like crisis to make you feel anxious before you even read the first sentence. Heck, even the color of a Buy Now button is carefully chosen to prime you for action. It's so subtle, but it's incredibly effective.
And this, right here, is the science of nudges. It's not about forcing you to do anything. No way. It's about making one option feel just a little more natural, a little more appealing than the others. Remember that coffee you chose this morning? Well, maybe yesterday you saw an ad for it, and it was full of warm, cozy images. That primed you to associate that specific brand with comfort today. You weren't forced, you were just nudged.
All right, let's move on to our second force. This one is all about our relationship with other people. The pull of the crowd. And believe me, this one is powerful because at our core, we are fundamentally social creatures.
This whole thing is driven by a concept called social proof. What is that? Well, in situations where we feel uncertain, we have this deep-seated, ancient instinct to just look at what everyone else is doing and think, yep, that must be the right thing to do. We follow the herd because, from an evolutionary point of view, it was usually the safest bet.
And this creates a really powerful tug-of-war inside our heads. On one side, you've got your own rational logic. You're analyzing the features, you're comparing prices. But on the other side, there's that irresistible pull of the bestseller tag, or that product with 5,000 positive reviews. Which one usually wins? Let's be honest, more often than not, we end up trusting the wisdom of the crowd over our own careful research.
And in our digital world, oh man, this is on steroids. That news you were scrolling through this morning, that wasn't some random objective selection of the day's events. Not at all. Algorithms showed you what was popular, what people just like you were clicking on. This creates what we call an echo chamber, which is really just a digital form of social proof that's constantly reinforcing what you already believe. And that makes it harder and harder to see any other perspective.
Okay, on to our third and final force. And this one taps into one of our biggest anxieties, time. Let's talk about the pressure of the clock.
At its core is something called the scarcity principle. It's a really straightforward rule of human psychology. We want what we think we can't have. Simple as that. The moment something is framed as rare or limited or running out, our perception of its value just skyrockets.
I mean, come on. We've all seen this. These phrases are literally designed to trigger a sense of panic. They're meant to short-circuit that careful, thoughtful part of our brain and push us straight into an impulse decision. You're not just buying a product, you're trying to avoid the pain of missing out on a deal. So, what's actually happening in our brains that makes this so darn effective? Well, it's a 1-2 punch. First, there's FOMO, the fear of missing out. We all know that one. But second, and even more powerful, is something called loss aversion. Psychologists have actually found that the pain of losing something feels about twice as strong as the pleasure of gaining that same thing. So that sale ends tonight message, it's not just about the pleasure of saving money. It's about avoiding the much, much stronger pain of losing that opportunity for good.
Okay, so we've looked at priming, social proof, and scarcity. Now, it's really easy to hear all this and feel a little overwhelmed, maybe even cynical, but that's not the goal here. The goal is to become aware, because awareness is always the first step to reclaiming the driver's seat.
And here's the crucial point I want you to take away. You are not helpless in this. Not at all.
Just understanding these forces is a huge first step. The next is to actively move from being a passive passenger, just getting nudged along by these currents, to becoming an active, conscious driver of your own choices.
So how do we actually do that? Well, here's a simple toolkit. First, practice mindfulness. Before you click buy or share or whatever it is, just pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, wait a minute, why am I really doing this? Second, diversify your sources. You have to intentionally break out of your algorithmic bubble. And third, challenge your assumptions. The next time you feel that sense of urgency, that pressure, ask, is this really scarce, or is it just designed to make me feel that way?
And that brings us to what might be the most important takeaway from this whole explainer. Look, the goal isn't to live in some fantasy world with zero influence. That's just impossible. True freedom, real autonomy, comes from being aware of the influences acting on you, and then consciously choosing how you want to respond to them.
So, as we wrap this up, let's go all the way back to where we started. Knowing what you now know about those invisible suggestions, the pull of the crowd, and the pressure of the clock, what's one thing you'll choose to do differently tomorrow morning? Think about it. Thanks for joining me.
Momentum Lab, hit like, share and subscribe.